So good afternoon, Dawn. Thanks so much for taking some time out, getting involved in our Business Owner Spotlight interview.
Thank
Would
you
you
very
like
much.
to introduce yourself and just let us know what you do?
Sure. My name is Dawn Baird. I'm a content developer based in Belfast in Northern Ireland. I hope you could tell that from the accent. And what we do at Sensei is we help corporates and large tech companies mostly communicate better, generally about their tech products and the features of their products in order to market them better to their customers.
So I'm dying to know, Dawn, you're going to have to help me. How do you do that?
How do I do that? Well, the first thing that we do is we would go into how do we get customers in the first place, or how do we actually work?
How do you help big tech companies communicate better? How does that work?
Well, you may or may not know, but tech companies or tech people don't necessarily communicate in the best way. Sometimes that is not to be disparaging about them at all. I love them and we work closely with them, especially with large development teams. But sometimes tech people can be in their little bubble, just like anybody, with their own domain expertise and their own jargon and all that kind of stuff. And it can be very difficult to take your head out of your own domain and out of the jargon that you're used to and the language and the way that you're used to speaking and communicating. And so we help them to translate that language essentially for a regular audience. And the audience could be normal end users. It could be other developers who have less experience and less technical expertise. But quite often it can be people who are responsible for things like compliance, people who are in management, and generally a group of people that's not necessarily as tech as the techies who develop the products that they're trying to communicate to their audience. So we help them to break it down, make it easier, and translate it into language that other people can understand.
Fantastic. It sounds really simple, but obviously, I can understand where you're coming from, where if there's a lot of tech jargon and you need to get that to layman's terms for somebody to be able to buy the product that they're selling, essentially.
Yes, it is layman's terms, but it is more than that, because you have to think what level that person can understand that. So if it is an end user, it needs to be fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but those end users aren't necessarily people with no tech knowledge. So it's about pitching the jargon at the right level. Yeah. If you're speaking to people who are in compliance, then you can use an awful lot of compliance jargon, but you need to simplify and make the tech jargon easier within that as well. So it's a bit of a balancing act to make sure that all of the key terms are there. We do a little bit of SEO work as well for these companies and enterprises, and we need to make sure that all the SEO terms are there, all their feature descriptions are in, and the technical terms are there, but as well as the plain English. So it's a bit of a balancing act sometimes.
So you mentioned there, how do you get customers? I mean, who would be your ideal customer? Who would you most like to speak to?
I guess our ideal customer would be large enterprises or corporates at that level, where they have maybe 300, 400, 500 staff or more sometimes. So they have developed their product, they're kind of well on their way, they're successful already. And so they have lots of procedures in place, one of which is paying people on time, something that's a big bugbear for me, and it's something that we've overcome throughout our business. We've been running for 16 years. And companies of that size would appeal to us more than any other, because they've got procedures in place. They already know what they're doing. They know what they want. And the gap for them sometimes is they just can't communicate it as clearly as they would want to through their customers. And they're always kind of hungry for new business as well. And they're confident about the product and the service offering that they have. And so it's not a case where they don't know what to say. They usually do know what to say, but it's how to say it is the thing that they have problems with. So that's our ideal customer, is large corporates, really, and generally it tends to be tech companies.
And that's really interesting to me. So would that have been the case 16 years ago?
Oh, that's a great question. No, it wasn't the case 16 years ago, absolutely not. And I'm sure anybody who's been in business that long will know that things will change from the start of your business. Initially, we worked with local companies here in Northern Ireland or across Ireland, UK, really, but we started locally. And we started actually in training. Training content development was our initial thing rather than content development in general. Now it's a lot broader, and it goes across sort of learning, marketing, and technical. Those are kind of 3 areas of content development. But initially we developed content for smaller companies. We actually started with Queen's University. But we also worked with smaller companies who needed training developed really for any reason. I had a background in IT training, so we started there, but we also did management training, communication skills, sort of leading a team type skills and all that kind of stuff. But it has morphed from learning content development out to the marketing and the technical now as well. So it has changed quite dramatically.
So you've been able to really niche down and, as they say, find your tribe. So you've got your ideal customer. But do you think that your confidence had to grow where you were prepared to identify that niche and maybe turn some other business away?
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the start, I think when anybody starts a business, it doesn't matter if you're selling sweets or you're installing computers in a large corporate office. I think your confidence is low. Unless you're like a super confident person already. And for me, confidence is something that you act and you behave and you practice. It's a discipline. It's not a feeling that you have and then you just go out into the world and launch your product. It's definitely something that you have to do and practice and still practice to this day, of course. So yeah, I think you definitely have to develop that as you go along. I think maybe I've gone off the topic a little bit, Scott. Sorry.
No, you're correct. I just the reason I'm asking is, and I see it a lot, that it's obviously taken some time to build that confidence and trust yourself. But once you do, and you find your ideal customer, and you have the confidence to turn maybe not so ideal customers away, what would you say the real benefit is to your business?
I think at the start you accept everything because the truth is you need to pay the bills, and that's just what it comes right down to. But as you go along, you realize that not every customer is your ideal customer because perhaps they're not nice people to work with. Perhaps it's not a nice kind of domain area to work in or kind of an industry to work in because maybe it's very stressful. Perhaps the industry that you're working in is used to getting government funded programs, and unfortunately that was the thing that we fell into with the training content development, was that locally here in Northern Ireland there's an awful lot of government support, which is absolutely fab if you are a business and you need training, but it's not great if you're a training developer. And so we have kind of come out of that a little bit. We still do it when we're asked, but we don't promote it so much. So I think being able to say no and turn things down and decide who your ideal customer is and then decide who your ideal customer is not is very important. So for us, it became, smaller customers are not our ideal customer. In the main, just to speak plainly, it's because they can't pay the fee that we charge. So we don't target those customers. We will still serve them, and deliver content for them if they can pay for it. But they're often not confident themselves. So we're confident in supply, we're confident in developing the materials for them, but they're not confident enough to ask for what they really, really need.
Sure.
So saying no to customers, I think, is super important as you go along, and it does free up your brain space to think who exactly is my right customer, and also then to develop the content that targets them. And your own content that you develop online should knock out the customers that you don't want and should include the customers that you do want. So your content in a way should be divisive. Your own marketing content, I think, should be divisive, and it should turn people off and turn other people on to your products and services. Yeah,
totally agree with that. So we talked a bit about confidence and growing as a business owner. What would you say has been your biggest learning about yourself since you've been in business?
That's very interesting. I mean, there's lots of things that you learn. I think confidence is certainly one of them. But I guess I've learned the saying no and not accepting just every customer that walks in the door, every person that brings you up. That's certainly been one. But I've also learned that I am much more comfortable with risk than I realized. Which, if you're in business and you're listening to this today, you realize yourself that you do have to become comfortable with uncertainty. You have
Yep.
to become comfortable with what exactly does this customer want? What's going to happen on this discovery call? Is this first call going to lead to any business at all? Or is this kind of just practice for me in selling my services? At the end of the process or during the process, is the customer happy and all that kind of stuff? That's all kind of uncertainties. And you have to kind of switch something or flick something, a switch kind of in your brain to say, you know, I don't know the answer to everything. I don't know necessarily how to do everything, even for the customer. I don't know if they're going to be happy at the end of this. If they're not happy, do I know how to fix it? Do I know how to correct it? How long should I put into this? And I suppose there's lots of questions there, and you do have to become very chilled, really, with uncertainty in lots of different areas. And that's something that I've learned about myself, that I didn't realize I was so comfortable with risk.
Yeah.
And all those little mini risks that you take kind of on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. And it's good. It's good for resilience, because you learn to be tougher. You learn to be more relaxed about other people and about the uncertainty with them. If you have freelancers working with you, which we do have sometimes as well, you learn to let them run with their creativity and be confident that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And come back to you and bring ideas back that you never would have thought of, which are all good for your customers at the end of the day too.
Yeah, so it's relinquishing a little bit of that control and trusting the other
Yes.
people's expertise as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, clients can suggest things to you as well. I think sometimes as consultants and people who work in the service industries and the creative industries, we can think we have all the answers. As copywriters or tech writers or content developers, we know what you should say and how you should say it. But the client reaction to what you've given to them for the first and second draft of things can often be very telling. And it's often hard for them to know exactly what they want all of the time.
Yeah.
Until you present them with something, they react to it. And it's very much a collaborative process. And I think that's something that I've learned as well, is that, you know, clients can bring the information and the goods as well. And then you can work with them. So it is very much a collaboration type thing. It's not like I'm the teacher and they're the student. Absolutely not. They can react to what you've done and make additional suggestions for you, and also bringing other people into your team, like other freelancers, I think is very important as well, and you can learn from them too.
Yeah, again, and so you've got now touched on confidence, and now we're on open mind, having that open mind to you know, take feedback from various different sources to improve yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that I think I learned was the importance of networking, sort of veering off onto a different topic here, but I think realizing that other people have something to contribute, and, you know, this is people like outside of your own business, people that you might meet. It could be in the golf course, but it's more likely to be at a networking event or some kind of training event that you're attending yourself to up your own level of skills. I was initially terrified in year 1, year 2, year 3, maybe even year 5. These people to me seemed like superhumans. They were doing these fancy meeting things. I didn't really know what meetings were. I hadn't really experienced meetings so much, and certainly not networking meetings, but I've learned that people are human and they're approachable and even friendly. And if you, I think if you learn that very early, that clients are human as well, I think that can really help with your confidence too. When you get great feedback from them, from clients, from people that you work with, even from people outside of your own business, you'll get a little bit of encouragement from them. That can all help with your own development too.
Brilliant. And Dawn, what does the future look like for you and your company? What do you think you know, the next 2 or 3 years looks like for you?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure that we've thought really that far ahead. Whenever I started business, people had a 2-year plan and a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. We have never run like that because it just doesn't sit naturally with us really at all. We kind of take things as they come. But I suppose a couple of years ago, one of our plans was, and it's interesting that COVID happened in the middle of this. One of our plans was that we were going to be location independent. Okay. And we have certainly achieved that goal. We've always been remote first as an organization, as a business. And we wanted to be location independent so that we didn't have to rely on meetings in person with clients. And so we kind of, I suppose, trained our clients in a way not to rely on us. So for the clients that we do have locally in Ireland, UK, we don't meet them in person generally unless we need to. And of course, we'll always jump in the car and head out to do that. But most of our clients now are outside of Ireland, UK. So we have clients in Romania and the Netherlands and America and various other places. And that means that we can go off and travel when we want to, if we feel like it. We can take the laptop with us or not, as the case may be. And that was certainly number one goal for me, probably from day one. But it didn't seem like something that we could do probably until about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we've achieved that, and that's been really important for us to do, meaning that we can work as and how we like and where we like as well.
Yeah, so I think it's important to, a lot of people get into business to have a better life, but they forget to have the better life. So
yes,
you've remembered that bit?
Yes, absolutely. I think, that whenever COVID came along, sort of, was it, I don't know, 2.5 or whatever years ago now, I think everybody was really shocked that they had to all of a sudden do remote meetings. We've been used to that, so we didn't have so much of the tech burden to overcome, and we work a lot with tech people as well, and so we use a lot of tech in our own business. We use a lot of online subscriptions and services and that kind of thing for invoicing and for project management, all that kind of other stuff. But a lot of that frees you up as well from the need to be somewhere. And I think people need to remember that there's a lot of technology already out there that can help them live the lifestyle that they want. So if you're running a business like ours, which is really a lifestyle business, we make a small profit and we make enough of a profit to live the lifestyle we want. We employ freelancers and various others when we need to. I think if people realize the amount of technology that was out there that could help them to achieve that goal in their business, especially in the service industries, especially kind of in the information service industries, I think that would be very useful for them to explore and find out that they can live a lifestyle that is a little bit different from the daily commute.
Yeah. So look, just to finish up then, last question. If you could go back 16 years, start your business all over again, is there anything you would do differently, or would you just do it all the same to have the learnings?
I would say that what we would do, and I would say this kind of to anybody, is to do your research. I don't think we did quite enough research. We probably researched about a year into kind of training topics and how to do training and how to get qualified as a trainer, which we were kind of already on the process of doing at that stage. But I would say do your research into your market, probably more. Who is going to buy this product or the service that you're offering? Is there a demand for it already? And can you have a piece of the pie? Very few of us are inventing anything completely new. There's a few people inventing and creating things that don't exist already, but a lot of us are delivering a service that's pretty similar to what other people are doing. And yes, we think we'll do it differently and we'll do it uniquely and have our own spin on it, of course. But I think researching into what it is you're providing, and is there an actual demand for it? And also, what are people going to pay for it as well? I have a friend who was interested at one stage in opening a cafe, and she was already a baker, and she thought that translated into owning a coffee shop, and I put her off it actually. And I said, listen, go and work in a coffee shop or a bakery or a cafe yourself for a little while, go and manage staff for a while, and then see if that's something that you want to do. Do your research first. Work a few years in that field and make sure that it's something that you really want to do, because when you step it up several levels to actually running a business and having staff, which we don't have staff at all. We used to use freelancers when we need to. Things are very, very different. So do your background research first is what I would say is the first thing. And also remember that moving out of employment, if that's what you've been used to prior to running your own business, it's a massive shock to the system. The buck really stops with you. On lead generation, on marketing, on getting the work done, on getting paid, on all the insurance that you need, paying your taxes and all the other legislation that's involved, and dealing with clients and managing client relationships. The buck really does stop with you. So do your research first and find out what it is you're getting into before you do.
And make sure you really want to do it.
Exactly. I mean, we would probably take risks a lot sooner as well. It would be something else. We would probably, not to sound rude or anything, but we would ditch clients and projects a lot sooner. We would decide what we want to do and what we don't. And probably we would take down our tolerance for people who don't pay in time or don't pay at all, think they're not going to pay at all. We would reduce our tolerance down to that. But a lot of that is up to experience and actually going through all of those things. And you can't you can't kind of know that in year 1 or even necessarily in year 5.
But yeah, I mean, it's golden advice. And listen, Don, I really, really appreciate you taking some time out today to share that with us.
You're welcome.
Really, really enjoyed finding out a bit more about your story and actually learning what you do.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to be on the show.
Thanks, Don.